So you're ready?
I'm ready.
We are ready. All right, man. Welcome to the Sippin' Something podcast. Today I have Codey Albers with me. Codey's a childhood friend of mine. Gosh, we go way back, and we'll get into that in a minute. But before we do, my last two episodes I kind of forgot, I think, to even bring up what we were drinking, which is funny because that's like what the whole, the name of the podcast is. It's the Sippin' Something podcast. So it's a pretty important part. But I am just drinking coffee, actually.
Fantastic.
Which also, it should be noted, it is 8:30 in the morning here. Codey's in Germany, which is what time?
It's 3:30 in the afternoon here.
All right. So what are you drinking?
I would love to tell you what I'm drinking.
All
It
right.
is a Dunkelweiss beer from the... hold on, my phone's going off. It's a Dunkelweiss beer from the brewery called Erdinger. And so I have become a small bit of a beer snob since coming to Germany. But most beers brewed with like barley and hops, right? I think that's mostly common knowledge.
Yeah.
And Weiss beer is made with wheat. Weizen is like the German word for wheat. So instead of barley, it's brewed with wheat. So it's not like quite as bitter. It's kind of smoother. And it's really bubbly. And I like the Dunkel. That's like the wheat version of a stout, basically. So this is like if Guinness was brewed with wheat instead of barley.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know it. You know things. Are you drinking out of a glass?
Yeah. Well, this is a big... You can't really tell. This is a massive bottle. This is a half-liter bottle. There's no way I'm gonna
nice.
be chugging from this thing. It's
This
like
is gonna get good.
It's the size of my torso, so I'm
Okay,
not gonna drink that straight from the...
So
straight
this
from
is
the bottle.
episode 3, dude.
Yes,
And-
I listened to your episodes 1 and 2, and you did mention what you were drinking. In episode 2, you were with that bodybuilder coach. You were just drinking water because he said it was his cutting season.
Yeah.
And I studied for this. You were drinking scotch, or I think whiskey, maybe something 30 years
bourbon.
old. Bourbon even.
Bourbon, yeah. Yeah, that was a good
episode
one.
Yeah.
But this is episode 1 of a virtual podcast, which means it could be an absolute nightmare because I have no idea what I'm doing. So we're really leaning on you.
I'm
You're
really good
literally-
at pretending
actually,
I know.
You're not a guest, you're a co-host today.
Oh,
How's that?
fantastic.
All right.
A guest co-host.
Exactly. Also, just a warning, I felt like I needed to sneeze in like the last minute and a half. So be prepared, it's coming.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So, like I said, we grew up together. I can't really remember when we met, but I assume it would be like I don't know. We were definitely toddlers. And I would imagine it was through church, probably. Our parents went to the same
Yeah.
church, perhaps?
Yeah, yes, they did. So one of my earliest memories, we had just moved to Kansas. I was born in Washington. We had just moved to Kansas, where my mom's from. My earliest memory is meeting a different friend of mine. You know him. His name's Paul. My earliest memory is meeting him at his house. And I feel like that was one of the first things we did when we came, because Paul's cousin was my mom's childhood best friend. And I feel like the second thing we did after moving back was go to church. And that was Lakeside Baptist, where you and your family went as well. So
What year would that be? Do you know?
Like 1998.
Oh, boy. Yeah. The good old days.
You would have been 3 and I was 2 or something like that.
Yeah. Did you know what one of my earliest memories with you is?
What?
Which, by the way, Jeff Chalkley babysat us.
Yeah, he did.
Which, the people that know Jeff Chalkley know that that's hysterical. The people that don't, just understand that is hilarious.
You're watching
That
2
my father babysat
preschoolers
us.
every single
Yeah.
day.
I would love to be able to see video of that, actually. Like, see because I don't remember really anything. I remember 9/11. We watched 9/11
I remember that too. Yeah,
on my television at home.
I do remember that.
Because I'm pretty sure we thought it was, like, cool. Because we didn't
Oh,
understand.
look at this movie. This is a cool movie.
Yeah. It was totally like an action. And my dad's like, no, guys.
I remember that vividly too. I think we were watching probably Dragon Tales or something, and he switched it. Initially, I was angry that he switched it, and then I thought, okay, well, now he's just turning it into a fighting movie with explosions and stuff. Didn't quite understand the gravity of the situation.
No, not quite. So, I am pumped up to talk to you because you're maybe world's most interesting man.
Thank you.
Like the meme, just because I feel like, the nobody's perfect. Like, that's like a huge,
that song?
Nobody's perfect. Which, there's also,
Hannah Montana, you meant the saying. You meant the saying.
Yeah, I meant,
yes. Okay.
But you're close. Like,
thank
it seems
you.
like
I
you just know
disagree,
how to
but...
do everything. You were freaking, the horsepower in your brain is skyrocket. I mean, it's just through the roof. And you can like pick up any instrument and play it. You can sing, you do all these things. Ladies man, blah, blah. In fact, I remember you posted a video maybe last year about, it was a video of you singing. And I commented and was like, hey, I'd really love to get married sometime, so could you please save some for the rest of it? But, so before we kind of get into what you're doing now and after high school, I have a lot of gray areas because I left Silver Lake in 6th and 7th grade when I was in Missouri.
Yeah.
And then I lived in Texas for a couple of years in high school. And I remember like young elementary years with you where we were super tight. And then it kind of just goes gray for me where at some point you were homeschooled, right?
Yeah.
And then you moved away at some point too.
Yeah.
Or am I just making stuff up? Please
fill me
in
true.
because I am dumb.
That's all true.
I mentioned in episode 1 that my ignorance was going to be brought out big time. And this is really the episode that's going to like, not that, it's pretty much brought out every time I open my mouth, but talking to you is really going to reveal some things to the people, to my 16 listeners.
Oh, that's 16. That's way higher than I ever got on a podcast I tried to do. I got 2, and that was me and my co-host.
14 of them were me looking to see what the views were, probably.
That's sick. Nice. No, I think you're right. 4th grade, I decided to try to be homeschooled.
Because you're smarter than all of us.
Well, we could talk about this later, but I thought I was smarter than everybody else, and it's not the case. It's some unfounded sense of arrogance, but I wanted to work ahead, and my mom really wanted to see how far she could push me I think that's one benefit of homeschooling. No matter what grade you are or how smart society tells you are, anyone can benefit from homeschooling for the reason that you get a one-on-one dedicated teacher.
Right.
And I think anyone in that situation where they have one single person who's pushing them in every subject, that's super helpful. Mm-hmm. The only downside of homeschooling is it's hard to make sure that you're actually being taught good curriculum. It's hard to make sure that what you're being taught is accurate. And it's also hard to develop social skills if you're not interacting with other kids. But so 5th grade, I was homeschooled. 6th grade, I came back, and that's when you went to Texas? Or you went to Texas
Missouri.
in 7th grade?
Missouri was 6th and 7th.
Yeah, you guys moved
for
to
my
Missouri.
mom's family. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there was a lot of moving, actually. So
and then back before starting 8th grade is when we came back. So
from Missouri.
So Corey, the brother above me, graduated in Missouri, and then we came back. So coming into my 8th grade year, I started back at Silver Lake.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I was homeschooled right before you left, and then as soon as I came back to school, you were in Missouri.
Mm-hmm. But then you stayed.
Yeah,
because
I stayed in public school. I missed my friends, and I wanted to do sports and stuff like that.
Yeah, big time athlete.
Big time athlete. A 5 foot 3, 90 pounds until I graduated. Major athlete. Not.
I remember when you got into wrestling.
Oh
and
yeah.
I remember because that would have probably been around that time, right? 8th grade, maybe? Or did you wrestle earlier?
Yeah, I think 7th, 8th grade, and even 9th grade I did wrestling.
Yeah, and I remember your mom turned into a wrestling mom really quick.
Oh, she loved it. She loved every minute of being a wrestling mom.
It shocked me. I was like, oh, I didn't expect. And then she was like all about it. I mean,
She's
helping
all
you
about
with your diet and everything.
My mom is amazing. She is all about anything she decides to do. One time she decided to become a middle school cross country coach, and she like coached those kids to a championship just for fun.
That's awesome. So, but you didn't graduate in Silver Lake.
No.
You went
after sophomore year. We moved to Indiana. My mom got remarried to her high school sweetheart, and he was in Indiana at the time with his job, so we moved there.
Okay, so that is why there's because that's when I went to Texas. Would have been the start of my sophomore year.
Yeah, if you remember.
So we kind of broke up then.
Yeah, that's when we broke up. We said no more being friends. No, if you remember, though, that summer before I left, my family had already moved to go get situated, but I wanted one last summer with my friends. Mm-hmm. And you were in Texas. You had just gone to Texas for the summer. So I stayed in your bedroom for a full summer. I was living with your family.
Oh,
because I wanted to reconnect with my Silver Lake friends, or not reconnect, but have that last time with them.
Yeah, that was like my parents didn't talk to me. They had you filled the void, man. They were like, this dude's better.
Sorry, we got a new son.
We upgraded. And so then
me and your dad watched so much America's Got Talent. It was like a weekly event. We're watching that thing together.
He's
great.
Awesome. My dad is the greatest human.
He's cool.
So you graduated in Indiana.
Yeah.
And then went to college immediately.
Yeah.
Harvard.
No. Okay, no, I went to a tiny, not well-known state school in Ohio. It's called Bowling Green State University. Not to be confused with the University of Western Kentucky, which is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. But yeah, I went to Bowling Green. I thought I was going to study journalism. Turned out to not be good at that. So I instead decided to study political advocacy, and I double majored with German literature and language.
Yeah. See, this is the stuff that me and you don't connect on, which is why I'm excited to talk about it, just because I am clueless.
Well, I don't use either of those degrees, so...
Well, but still, you know German?
Yeah, I speak it.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. I hardly know English, Cody.
Me too.
Okay, so you graduated from there?
Yeah.
And then what's next?
So I graduated from there a little bit early, actually, in 2017. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I was working at Walmart as a customer service manager. So like anytime someone is saying, oh, you won't take my coupon, let me speak to a manager, that's me who's coming to.
You're the Karen. You had to settle the Karens.
And you know what? Karens just love me for some reason. That's why I think that's why I got that manager job. I just have a way with irate suburban moms.
That's awesome. So that was directly after you graduated.
I started working there before I graduated.
Okay.
I was at Walmart for a little while, and I really respect people who can make a career out of service industry jobs or a career out of retail jobs. It is brutal. We don't pay them nearly enough. Everyone working at Walmart needs to make double what they make right now, because it is a tough job, and there's a lot of stressful things that happen at that job, and you got to keep track of a lot of things. Yeah, it's a stressful job, but it wasn't for me. So that's when I applied for this nonprofit that's partners with inner city schools in Boston, New York, San Francisco. Yeah.
What? Oh, you're talking 3 different places.
Yeah. So this nonprofit,
you just blew my mind. I talked to Drew. Do you know Drew Lamprecht? You remember him?
Yeah.
I was talking to him we were just playing around with this audio equipment, trying to figure it out. And I had to explain to him, I don't know where Washington, D.C. is at. So when you just said Boston, New York, San Francisco, I thought you were like, I didn't think it was
mentioning one.
Yeah, it took a minute.
City,
I was
state.
like, Boston's in New York? I wouldn't have guessed that.
No, it's in Massachusetts, my friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this nonprofit operates in 3 cities. I guess maybe they've grown, but that's how I got relocated to Boston. I left Walmart to work at this nonprofit in Boston, and then I stayed in Boston for, I guess, from then until I came to Germany.
Okay. So what was the nonprofit for, and then what was your goal in, or what made you kind of take that route, I guess? Like you weren't enjoying the Walmart gig, or?
No.
Okay, it wasn't for you.
It wasn't. So I have this, I don't know, this need, I guess, to feel like what I'm doing is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody kind of feels like that. Like whatever you're doing should be important to you, or else why are you doing it?
Right.
And retail just wasn't important to me. I really respect people who can make it important to them because, like I said earlier, they're doing a tough job. But I didn't like it. So I wanted to do something that I cared about. So I applied to this nonprofit that was working in inner city schools, specifically in Boston. I had been to Boston before. I kind of liked the city. I wanted to know more about it. So I applied to their branch in Boston. And basically what this nonprofit does, they're really cool. I like them a lot. But they train a bunch of people on how to be teachers. And then they send them into this inner city school, and they run these after school programs where they partner, each of these teachers, they partner with like a professional in some field. For example, the first after school program that I did was teaching 5th graders how to write code. So Boston has several big tech firms, and I was able to get some people who, or not me, but the nonprofit was able to get some people who work at these big tech firms who are like developers, they're software engineers, get some of them to come to this school where I was working and teach these kids this skill. And since they're software engineers, they probably don't know much about teaching. And so my job was to help them make curriculum that could be taught. So they had the expertise on the subject matter, and I had the teaching skills. And so we kind of worked as a team to like deliver this after school programming. And we did a whole bunch, like every day was a different after school program. So Monday to Thursday, I was basically teaching 4 separate classes each of those days.
Okay. And they were all after school.
Yeah. But I was there the entire school day because I also worked as a para at that same school during the day.
Okay.
So like a paraprofessional, someone who's just kind of like an extra body in the classroom to help with behavior management or help with like certain concepts, teaching in small groups.
Yeah. So like this is kind of like your humanitarian side, I think. Can I read a quote that you told me?
Sure.
I wrote this down actually. Because I remember, so the last time I saw you I feel like it was Carney and Noah Cross's wedding.
Yeah, that's probably
perhaps.
Right. I think that was the last time I was in Kansas.
Yeah, you reached out to me before that, and you were like, you want to be my +1? Or no, you said, I think you said, did you get invited to the wedding? I said, I'm not sure. I haven't. And you said, well, if not, buckle down, because you're my +1 or something. But you said, I was kind of just seeing what you were doing because we had lost touch, I guess. And you said, I spent the last 4 years complaining about how our country neglects minorities and complaining about the utter failure of the public school system. So now I'm teaching in an inner city public school to maybe shake things up here and be a positive influence to some underprivileged lower class middle school kids. So that's like you kind of putting your money where your mouth is, or putting your words into action. Because you see, like, I mean, if you get on Facebook today, every other post is somebody complaining about something political or whatever the case may be, and it's insane. It's insane, and it's funny to kind of sit back and watch sometimes. Although it's sad, it's sometimes funny just because it's like, do you really think you're going to change that person's mind texting or typing on a screen?
Not on
probably
Facebook,
not gonna
you
happen.
won't.
I've never once have I seen it happen. And so to just see, and then see there's morons on both sides that use marginal cases of everything to make any argument. And
sure.
It's insane. But I guess you go into Boston and starting to work for this nonprofit was kind of like you putting those words into action, which is extremely admirable. I think anybody would agree to that.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I just feel like maybe this is part of my mom's doing, because just anytime my mom's interested in something or she believes in something, she goes ham, like full dives into it.
Right.
And so I was thinking, like, I don't know, if I really believe something, then why am I not acting on it?
Totally.
And I also, I don't know, had this, like, right out of college, this is an issue that a lot of people who went to college, who I talked to, they have this, like, feeling of identity crisis, because, like, ever since, I guess their whole life has been, like, turning in an assignment.
Yeah.
Whether it's writing a paper, taking a test, whatever it is, your whole life until you're 22 years old, if you go to college, is turning in an assignment. Whereas some of the people who didn't go to college had the benefit of, once they turned 18, they graduated high school. Okay, now they understand how the world works. Where I had a lot of us who graduate college, we have no idea how the world works. We're like, okay, what's our next assignment? What's the next thing I have to type? What's the next thing I have to take a test on? What's the next thing I need to know or do? And so I needed a new assignment. I was just going to work every day at Walmart. It was repetitive. It was nice to have a routine. But I needed an assignment. What's my next assignment? And my specific degree in college, studying political advocacy, it's like the assignment was always find an issue in society and then think about ways to fix that issue. Weigh risks and benefits, like analyze the situation. So I guess that's kind of just where I had been conditioned to go next. All right, I needed a new assignment, and I had been taught to try to root out issues in society that maybe need addressing. And then, I was also arrogant enough to think that I, as a one single person, could address any of those issues that I saw. Yeah. But to me, going to Boston was like, okay, that's my next assignment. That's what I got to do.
Yeah. And that's what's awesome is, to me, it's like so many people complain about problems, but never do they offer a solution.
Well, solutions are hard.
Yeah, but it's, and complaining's easy. Like it seems like we all have something to complain about. But
if you don't complain, you don't find those problems, though. So complainers, they have an important role, I think.
Yeah, they do. But I just think that the cool part is you kind of like, all right, well, if I don't like this, if I don't agree with it, if I think change needs to happen, then why don't I go ahead and roll up my sleeves and get to work? And that's what's awesome, I think. So that's Boston. And my understanding is that you were not in a great area. So not only did you decide to start working in this inner city public school system, but you also lived in the same area. So you didn't not transport. What's the word?
I didn't commute.
No, there's this. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's this issue that bugs me. It's this idea of a savior complex where you think like, only I can solve this problem for another community, and I'm going to go in there not knowing anything about that community and solve all of their problems. So I was pretty adamant about living in the same community where I wanted to work, because if I think that I need to help this community change the school system, whatever that help means. Obviously, it doesn't mean I'm leading anything or organizing anything, because there were plenty of organizers, there were plenty of leaders, plenty of super intelligent people already in that community, already doing the work. Yeah. But I decided if I want to go there and offer my two hands to support wherever they can, that I need to be there. I need to know like what's going on in this community. And especially if I'm going to be working with kids, like I need to know what these kids' daily struggles are. I need to know how they live their lives. I need to know like what's happening. I can't just be this savior who goes in without knowing anything and trying to fix things. I mean, the best example of when that saviorism complex screws you over is, well, the U.S. and Afghanistan. I feel like that's the most recent example of that exact mentality. We're going to go somewhere where we don't know anything about. We're going to enforce our point of view, and we're going to try to make things better, whatever we think that means. And I don't like that mindset. Right. So it was important to me that I lived in the same area as I was teaching, and it was important to me that I kind of learned who are the community leaders and how can I help them with the great projects that they already have going on.
Yeah. So I don't know if I told you, there's a guy that moved to Topeka and probably, I don't know, within the last 5 years, let's say that. Maybe.
Okay.
7 years. My years suck. I would just like to, I'm pretty sure I graduated high school 2 years ago still, and we're moving down the road. So anyways, his name's Jonathan, and I met him through church. He's a pastor. Have you heard of Fellowship Bible Church?
Maybe, probably. It's been a long time since I lived in Kansas, so I probably knew of it when I lived there.
Yeah. Well, it's a big church, and he kind of through Fellowship, planted another church in the High Crest area in Topeka, which is, I would call it similar to what you're kind of trying to describe. And I think that he has, and I don't want to speak for him, but he has a very similar mentality, I think, as you. And he was telling me his story one time, and he lived in Dallas or Houston or Austin, one of those, and was working like a 6-figure income job as like an architect or engineer or something. Left that job, moved into the inner city, was living in like really low income areas where I want to say he told me that like his apartment neighbor above him would flush the toilet and it just would drain into his apartment. Like he's in this area, just dives into the area with the same mentality that you have of like, it's really easy to stand outside and preach in. But how about we actually dive in and show that we genuinely do care, love, that kind of thing. Yeah. And man, what he's done in Topeka has been really awesome, just in like him moving into that area and planted a church there. Their church plant is like in an old school gymnasium, and he started a nonprofit with, again, I can't speak for him, but they do all sorts of education stuff for the kids, and it's a big deal. And they're building houses, remodeling houses, and then I want to say his plan was or is that people who are coming out of prison or lower spots in life, they're kind of hiring them with trade jobs, so kind of helping people. So it's like full circle. It's not just like, here's your solution for this one problem. Now fix it. Like it goes full circle in trying to build people up and then kind of staying with them in what I would call discipleship.
Well, yeah, but I feel like the more you look into any given problem and the more you look into trying to find a solution for any given problem, you realize that a majority of society's problems are at least in some way connected. So you can't ever just address one issue with one targeted solution for that issue. It's like if you want to fix this issue, you have to fix these 3 other root causes that are in and of themselves their own separate issues. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we need more nonprofits like that address every single ailment of a community, not just not just one or two. So like if we're working on education, then and that is specifically focused on keeping kids in school. A lot of times there's a behavioral issue. You'll kick the kid out of school, and the statistics show that kicking kids out of school makes them more likely to end up in prison. And if somebody is in prison, then they're more likely to go back to prison. And if they've been to prison more than once, then they're less likely to have a job, so more likely to end up homeless, which having no food or income or shelter security means you're more likely to commit crimes. So if, let's say, you just wanted to solve any of those issues that I just mentioned, you have to address them all together, rather than just one at a time. So yeah, that's awesome. I'd love to meet that guy and learn about his nonprofit.
I need to see if he'll come on here, because I did absolutely no justice by trying to explain shortly what he does. But dude, it's insane, and he sees the big picture of everything on. Not just like, he's not just trying to pour into Highcrest, like he's pouring into Topeka as a whole, because Topeka is his community, and that's cool. He's got a serious heart for people, and it's really incredible to watch. But so back to, you lived in a pretty dangerous area. Would that be a good word?
I mean, like, sure.
High crime rate.
Yeah, a high crime rate doesn't always mean that it's a dangerous area. Sometimes the reason there's crime is because there's poverty, and if you're living within the poverty, there's no reason for you to get burgled or have your house broken into, right? Other reasons why there's a high crime rate is maybe there's some sort of, I don't know, personal beef that gets escalated. And then it involves like family members, and then there's like this idea of like a family member trying to get restitution for a wrong that happened to one of their other family members, right? Or even gangs. Like, gangs aren't really that much of a thing in Boston anymore. I don't know, maybe I'm putting my foot in my mouth there, but there was a little bit of gang violence. But like, if you don't belong to either of those gangs, you don't really become a victim. Or if no one in your family or no one who lives with you belongs to any of these gangs, you don't become a victim. So I guess I lived in an area that did have a high crime rate. There's this neighborhood in Boston called Mattapan. It's also where I taught. And a lot of the people who lived there called it Murder Pan, because they were upset about the high homicide rates. But I never really... There were only a couple of instances where I was even exposed to any of that crime or violence. And I would say the average person just minding their own business, at least in that area, would have been just fine like I was.
Right. So like when you say exposed to instances, what can you, I guess, go into that? Or
Sure. So on my specific street, there was a few... I guess break-ins and some violence that happened. One time I was at a bus stop and I saw like a group of people jump somebody. But I got the feeling that, so it was a crazy story. I was standing at a bus stop that is like maybe a block or two from my school. I was trying to catch my bus home. And right across the street is a police department. So I saw this guy come out of the police department and come over to the bus stop. Not the one I was at, but the one going the other direction. So he walks out of and then a group of people had been waiting for him as if they knew he was in the police department. So I don't know if maybe this guy wanted to come clean about some, I don't know, criminal activity. And other people involved in that activity weren't necessarily pleased with that. And that's why he got jumped, because they didn't take his wallet. They just beat him up and then they ran away as soon as cops started coming out. Like, this was right on the steps of the police department. So cops started coming out and then all the guys involved just kind of ran away. So I guess I did see a few instances of, I guess, what people would call stereotypical Mattapan, but I was never really... I was absolutely never the target of any of it.
Right. And you're not getting involved in that situation.
No.
You're like, hey, wait, you shouldn't be doing that.
I shout across the street, hey guys, let's be nice to each other.
Yeah, it's probably not. I don't think they'd care for that much. but
Nope. I pulled out my phone to call 911 as the first few officers were coming out of the building to try to break it up. So
gotcha.
I did literally everything I could, which was nothing.
Okay. How long were you in Boston?
Like 3 years.
Okay. Did you tell me something about you had to sign a contract, but it couldn't be longer than 2 or something because of high turnover? Or am I making that up?
It's the nonprofit that I worked for gave out 2-year contracts to the specific position that I had.
Okay.
I only did one of those 2 years. At the end of that one, I left teaching, even though I'm teaching again now. But,
okay. So what did you do the other 2 years in Boston?
I started a design agency.
Oh yeah, this is where it's like you're really turning big time. This is like this is kind of where you. This is like something that excites you, right? Like that's why.
I love it.
You're ate up with it, as people would say.
I'm what with it?
I don't know. That might not be the right phrase.
What did you? I just didn't hear what you said.
I said ate up, like ATE up.
I'm ate up with it.
Is that a thing?
Cool.
Did I make that up?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure. You
Why
have
not?
to Google that.
It can be a thing. I'm all ate up with it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so like it consumes all my time,
ate
and
up.
I spend all my time thinking about. Oh, I'm ate up. You could say I'm ate up with it. Yeah.
We're gonna make that a thing, even if it's not. Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, we're coining a new phrase.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, that one of the classes I was running with my students after school in Boston was teaching 5th graders how to write code.
Mm-hmm.
And like I really wanted to make sure that I knew the material before helping teach it. So like I dove right into it.
Yeah.
So I taught myself how to code, just the 3 easy languages, I guess. Okay, so they're not easy, but if anyone listening to this podcast happens to be a software engineer and they hear that I know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, they're gonna be like, "Oh Jesus, that's the easiest. Those are the easiest ones." That's what that's what a software engineer would say. Yes, I mean you could teach them to 5th graders.
All right.
That's the point.
And
I probably could. I bet you I could give you some of that curriculum. It helped me out.
all right.
So we were doing that, and I decided, wait a minute, I could do this on the side. So I started while I was still working at the school for this nonprofit. I started spending my evenings and weekends, I guess, building a portfolio of like development projects and trying to get some like freelance gigs. And I got some freelance gigs. And in being exposed to like, they were like mom and pop shops that needed a website, like a little restaurant needs a website, or these grandparents are making gift baskets and they want to be able to sell them online, that sort of thing. So that exposed me to the design side of things. So I was like, writing the code to build a website, and obviously you have to know what you're going to build, so you have to draw it out or design it. And I realized that I actually enjoyed the designing better than I enjoyed the development. So I enjoyed the drawing out what it's going to look like. I enjoyed that a lot better than writing the code to bring those drawings to life.
Okay.
So I decided to change focus from development to design. And at the end of that first school year, I had enough clients that I decided I wanted to focus on that full time.
Gotcha. And so graphic design, essentially, is that?
Yeah. I mean, graphic
man.
designers have their own set of skills that I can't touch. So like graphic designers could draw you a logo. They could design like a magazine. They mostly do like print stuff. And I'm totally bad at all of that stuff. So I super respect graphic designers, but I'm not one of them. I'm a UI UX designer. Doesn't mean those letters don't mean anything other than it just means that I focus mostly on apps and websites.
So layout more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like UI, user interface, that would be the layout.
Okay.
And then user experience would be a little bit more, I guess, metaphorical, like how do we plan this app so that it is easy to use?
Navigation.
Yeah, you could say navigation.
Layout and navigation. That's your...
Exactly.
Look at me. I mean, I'm good with words, Cody. What can I say? I know the English language
It's true.
pretty well.
That's why you got a podcast.
Yeah. Yep, we'll go with that.
Yeah, see?
So you spent 2 years doing that in Boston, which you still do that, right?
Yeah, I'm still doing that on this side.
And then at some point you left Boston and went to Germany, where you're at now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where in the heck does that just pop into your brain, or like what's the...
It
what's the
seems so
story there?
random, but I promise you it's all connected. So, first, while I was in college at Bowling Green, I studied abroad for a year in Austria. And they speak German in Austria, and that's when I decided I wanted to pick up German as a major, because I learned it while I was in Austria, became pretty fluent with it, passed the test that said I was fluent. You're
And
shaking your head.
how long were you there?
I was there for a year. You could learn
Dude,
any
you
language
annoy
if you're
me.
there for a year.
You know that?
You could learn any language if you're there for a year.
Okay.
So, after I studied abroad, I became that person who always talked about how often they studied abroad. It was pretty annoying. My roommates and I, we put a tally on our whiteboard when I was living in Boston. Like anytime I mentioned studying abroad, we had to put a tally, and there was at least one tally daily. So yeah, I was super obsessed with the German language. I wanted to get back over here so I could keep using it. So there's the first point of connection. And the second point of connection is there's this grant called a Fulbright Grant, where it's basically like an exchange program,
Okay.
where the U.S. will send English teachers, they'll send researchers, and they'll send professors over to Germany. And Germany will send German teachers, German professors, and German researchers over to America to spend a year, right? It's like this exchange program. And so while I was working at a school, and while I still thought to myself that teaching was going to be where I wanted my career to go, I applied for this Fulbright Grant. And it's a really long, complicated process. It takes about a year for the application process to go through. And it's competitive. There's like 800 or so applications, and they only take 100 or so people. They took 125 this year, but I applied for that while I was still teaching. And then I had left teaching by the time I realized that I had gotten the grant. And then the pandemic happened when I was supposed to leave the country, so that got pushed to the end. So yes, I'm here, and it seems completely unrelated to what I'm doing. Like, why am I teaching English at a high school in Germany if I have a web design business? Mm-hmm. But it's because when I was teaching, I applied for it, and it just got delayed because of how long the process is, and also COVID.
When did you move there?
The end of August.
Oh, so it's only been a few months.
Yeah. It's a 1-year program, so next summer I'll be back in the States.
Okay. Wow. So you're not wanting to be in Germany for like ever?
Well, I can't. My visa says I have to go back at the end of this program.
Okay. So
This 1-year exchange program.
So August to August, or the end of the school year?
Yeah, I showed up early, so it's generally about a school year, so like 10 months.
Okay.
From September to, they go to school until July here.
Gotcha. So what's that? Are you like just a regular full-time teacher, essentially?
No, part-time teacher. So the idea of this grant is that basically you teach your native language.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the Germans who go to America, they teach their native language, but they're only allowed to do it part-time because they want you to spend the rest of your time going out and learning about the culture, traveling as much as you can, practicing the language and stuff. So I'm only at the school about 12 hours a week, and then I'd spend another probably 2 to 8 hours planning, like doing lesson planning and stuff. So it's really like right at part-time hours doing school-related stuff, and then I spend the rest of my time working on my design business.
So you don't what do you spend a lot of time going out and seeing things, I guess? Touristy
I do.
stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I do all sorts of touristy stuff. I love touristy stuff. Like I go to ancient cities and look at their old churches that have been standing for 1,000 years. I definitely do travel like they want me to. And the beauty of my design business is that it's all virtual. So I just bring my laptop with me. Like I spent the last week and a half in Berlin, which is on the other side of the country from where I am. And like I was being a tourist in Berlin, but I was working a few hours a day from my hostel room on my laptop.
Gotcha. Oh my gosh, this is so. Is there many people that speak English?
Everybody speaks English.
Gee. See, that's a question I wish I wouldn't ask.
I'm embarrassed. Like they say, so how many languages do you speak, Cody? And I was like, 2, English and German. And they're like, oh, okay. Kind of disappointed, like a little bit impressed that I'm an American who can speak a second language, but also disappointed because they learn like 3 or 4 in school and are completely fluent in at least 3 of them by the time they graduate.
Yeah.
Your face palm.
So do you speak German? Like, okay, let's say you approach somebody at a store or whatever.
I'll speak German, yeah. But if I spoke English, they at least know enough to help me out at the store.
Do you look like an outsider? Like if you go up to somebody and you start speaking German, are they like, this guy's a clown? Or are they like, oh yeah?
No. It depends. Some things, like the small talk, I've got a lot of practice doing like small talk in German. Like, where are you from? Like, what do you do for a living? Like, what do you like to do for fun? Those types of things. I've had a lot of practice on those, so my accent isn't super strong on those. And I've actually talked to a lot of people who didn't even realize I wasn't German until I started talking about things that I like are beyond small talk. Because as soon as you bring up a complex topic that I haven't practiced saying those words a lot, my American accent comes out like really thick. And then they're like, oh, where are you from? Because when we were doing small talk, you had a small accent, right. And now we're doing this talk and you have a big accent. So I think that's the only time I really stand out.
They make fun
also,
of you?
Germans, no, not really.
Dang. I wish they would.
But Germans don't wear bummy clothes very much. Like, they don't wear sweatpants to leave the house. Okay. And so if I'm wearing sweatpants out in public, they know I'm definitely not a German.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're a peasant.
Yeah. Exactly.
How about you look presentable going out in public, Cody?
Exactly. How about you put on a pair of jeans or lederhosen like a real man?
Exactly. What's your favorite part about Germany? That's probably...
the ancient stuff. Just the ancient stuff.
Really?
I mean, when the Romans were trying to conquer the world, their biggest rivals, for a time, not always, but for a time, their biggest rivals were Germans who lived north of them. So, like, since before the Romans, there have been people roaming around this area and building things. So I just love going around and seeing all the ancient stuff. Like,
so, like first century.
Yeah, some stuff. A lot of it was blown up in World War II, but there are some things that have survived that are just incredibly ancient that are really cool.
Okay. I want to go to Germany, dude. I know. I am a wrecking ball of no knowledge. I mean, it's bad. I am absolutely not cultured in any way. That's something I'd like to work on this year. What does
that mean to be cultured, though?
I guess know more than what I am raised with seeing, maybe. Or not know more, but like being exposed to more.
Being exposed to more than what you grew up with.
Yeah, because like, dude.
Okay.
and of course I didn't grow up, we weren't rich growing up. So like family vacations weren't even really much of a thing for me growing up. So like even the United States, like when I tell you I know where Washington D.C. is now because I did some studying after looking like a fool on camera.
Great.
But like I couldn't tell you much about anything as far as outside of the lifestyle that Kansans live or Texans live or people in Missouri. I mean, and it's all pretty much the same around here, you know? Like the Bible Belt is like,
yeah,
there's not a whole lot of differences. And I love differences. That's one thing I like about this podcast is I want to talk to people that I know, like right now, like I'm learning stuff about Germany, even though you're really not giving out much information to most people. Most people are like, yeah, this is all just, but for me, like it's all new now. I didn't read a single book. I read one book in fourth grade called Cabin on Trouble Creek. I'll never forget that. Until I was 18 years old. I mean, I was not a student. Like, I can't even say I was a bad student because I just wasn't a student. I was a class clown, and that's all I wanted to be. And I regret some of that, but...
Oh, but I was so jealous. I was so jealous of that. You could make anybody laugh, and I couldn't. I was just reading books, and I didn't know how to make people laugh. And I was like, well, how come Caleb's making people laugh? That's not fair.
Yeah, but I think there's benefits of both. See, like, you're the person that grows up, and you're
Sure.
like... Yeah, remember Kaleb from high school? He's one of my employees. That's the kind of guy you are. So, wow, we just went down a path that I don't know where we were in our conversation. But my point was being able to see and experience things that are not my normal is exciting to me. And that's kind of like one thing that I don't know how I feel about resolutions or whatever, but I am hoping to, in 22, like travel more just to see like, and I've been to like Mexico and Nicaragua and stuff like that. And like those places, I was going for like short-term missions work. So
yeah,
it was cool to see the actual lifestyle. So like to me, I don't want to go to Cancun because are you really seeing the lifestyle? No, you're just seeing a resort or whatever. And that doesn't, like, I can get that anywhere. There's lots of beaches.
You can go to Great Wolf Lodge in Kansas City and get the
exactly. Where I want to go somewhere that's like, I'm in their culture and their lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I see people, I'm not even saying not from the United States, but like, there's people that show up in Topeka, Kansas that's like, they're from New York, and it's like, oh yeah, I could tell. And just like to see the outsiderness and how people are treated. For one, I don't think we do a great job at like welcoming outsiders. And I don't know if that's
I think that's a human thing.
And so I kind of want to be in that maybe uncomfortable position places of like,
oh, you learn a lot, dude, being uncomfortable.
It's awesome.
If you really want to travel, here's what you should do. You should get a list of, keep it manageable. Say 3 countries that are close together. And you might want to start with Europe because most people in Europe speak English. So let's say you choose 3 countries that are close together. Like, we'll say these 3 countries that are between the Baltic Sea and Russia. You have Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania.
You could have made all those up.
They're really small.
I have a clue.
Each of these countries, all 3 of these countries could fit inside the state of Kansas. So it's small, but completely different cultures everywhere. And these also are decently cheap places to travel within. And hostels are great. They're not like hotels. You rent a bed in a giant room. So there's like there's like 12 bunk beds, right? So 24 people might be sleeping in this room, but it's only costs you like $10 a night. Yeah. So, and there's lockers where you can keep your backpack and stuff. So, and you're only there for the night because you're spending the day like exploring the cities where you are, meeting with people who are locals. So you go to some place, you get a hostel that's dirt cheap, and most of these hostels have a bar connected to them. So then you go in the bar and you try to meet some locals, and then you ask the locals, what do you do for fun? can I join you for the next couple of days? And 100% of the time, people have said yes when I ask them that. And when sometimes they're a little bit hesitant. They're like, why do you want to hang out with me? Are you like stalking me or something? I'm like, no. I just know nothing about your culture and it makes me feel stupid. And I would really love to respectfully be introduced to things that you do on a daily basis. And when you explain it like that, they're like, okay, cool. Well, tomorrow we're going to the gun range. How about you come shoot some AK-47s with us? I was like, yes, I'm there.
Dude, so that's like one place where I feel like I shine. Is just because I'm such a psycho extrovert.
Yeah, you're outgoing and you meet people.
Drives some people nuts. Because like what you just said, if you told that to some of like our introverted friends, that's like a nightmare. Like, whoa. Whereas me, I'm like, sounds rather normal. Like I can't go into Walmart without making a friend, you know.
Without making
like, what are you going to do with those biscuits you're buying? You know, we're going to have some kind of conversation. And so something like that just sounds so exciting and fun to me. And I work a job where I work.
It is.
I mean, scheduled. If I take no time off at all, I'm working 9 to 10 days a month. And so I have like, and I'm not married, but I have like the perfect time right now, I feel like, to go out and do those kind of things. Because there's not much weighing me down or whatever. So.
And if you make Germany one of your countries that you go to when you're doing this little tour that I explained, then you won't even have to spend money on a hostel bed because you could just stay with me. I'll show you what Mannheim looks like. We'll go to Heidelberg, which is like we could ride our bikes to Heidelberg, which is 45 minutes along the river. It's a beautiful path. And Heidelberg was one of the few cities that didn't get touched during World War II because the Americans knew that they wanted to set up their base there after the end of the war, so they didn't bomb it at all. And so everything is super ancient. Like there's this church that's been there since like 800.
Wow.
And like you get a really, really cool look at what ancient German culture was like. Yeah, we could go there, visit it.
Dude, that'd be awesome. Cool. Yeah, I think we'd have a lot of fun doing that, actually.
There's castles in this area that have been standing since like the 600s. It's crazy. And they're built on top of these mountains. And I don't even know how they got that much stone up the mountain, because that hike to get up the mountain to the castle, just to look at the castle and to have the views from the castle of like the surrounding country, like below, that hike without any gear, just with a bottle of water, is like wipes me out. And the fact that people were carrying like thousands of giant rocks up there to build a castle.
Is that crazy. What you were sending me Snapchat videos of maybe a couple months ago? But it was all clouds, so you couldn't really see much.
Yeah, that wasn't a castle. That was just a mountain that I wanted to hike up.
Yeah, they looked the same.
We got up there and we were inside of a cloud, so there was no no good view, unfortunately.
Oh man, I would be upset. I mean, you get to the top and you're out of breath, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah, I was pretty upset, but luckily I'd climbed that one before, so I knew what the view looked like. That was actually my 4th time on that specific mountain.
Man, we should do that. We should set something up. You're gonna be there till what? May or June?
I'm gonna stay till the end of July.
Oh, dude.
So actually, if you come after April, the snow will melt most places. It'll be decently warm. Anytime after that.
So is there a lot of Holocaust stuff there? Like museums or whatever you want to call that?
Most cities have some sort of Jewish memorial to commemorate the people who were taken from that city. And then if you want to see one of the encampments, we can go see one of those.
Like you could tour them.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, that's one of my bucket list items. I think there's a big deal going on in Kansas City right now. Auschwitz, am I pronouncing that right? Mr. Germany. It's at Union Station or whatever in Kansas City, and it's like I guess they put some sort of not tourist exhibit. That's a good word. every X amount of months, and that's the one that's in there right now. And they've extended it like 2 or 3 times because it's been such a big hit. And I guess it's pretty incredible. And I've been wanting to go, and I think it's going to be there till March or something, and I want to make that happen. That kind of stuff is just really.
I like to. It's kind of ground shattering because I'm someone who likes to believe that everybody is good, and even if somebody does a bad thing, they're acting on what they think at the time are the correct moral choices to make, until you go see something like that. And then you're just like confronted with the reality that sometimes evil just exists.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I want to go to Israel too. That's on my bucket list.
I've never been to Israel. It would be
There's
cool
some
to visit.
ancient cool stuff there.
But
again, no idea.
I mean, go to China. There's even more ancient stuff as well.
Yeah, that would be
even more ancient than like.
I used to not want really any part of that kind of travel, like international stuff. But I would love to go like as many places as I possibly could now. Just because you can learn so much. Like it's like a real life documentary.
It'll turn into an addiction. I've been to, I think, 15 or 16 countries now. And I'm like, it's not enough. Each time I go somewhere, I learn of 2 more places that I need to go.
I get it. That would happen to me. That's my problem with anything. It's kind of like you were talking about your mom jumps in really hard. Dude,
yeah,
I'm like that way bad. Whatever passion I decide to go after, it's just like we're doing it, and we're going all in, which is fun. It makes my passions more, I think, exciting for me, and I think it is overwhelming to some of the people around me, but it's what excites me, I guess. So I usually jump in pretty hard. And speaking of passions, so you already mentioned like your designing stuff is like something that you really enjoy, and it's cool that that's like monetized for you now. But let's talk about your musical stuff, because I know several people, they'll post like a video of them singing or playing guitar or whatever, and then you'll post something and it'll be like 18 different screens of you playing 18 different things and doing 68 different things on your keyboard or whatever. And it's like, this dude's making a whole like soundtrack with so many different, and it's, I don't know, that stuff's crazy. But I would assume that's like one of your biggest passions is music.
Yeah. So if I'm not, I don't travel very often because it can sometimes be expensive, but when I do like bursts. So if I'm not traveling and I'm not working either at school or designing, then I'm making music. Actually, you might be able to see you can't, but this camera can see my piano's right behind me. Actually, I love music. Like it's my happy place. It's where I find peace. And just like we said, like when we go into something, we go all in. Like when I decided I wanted to like record a song, I was like, well, the song needs to be more. It can't just be me playing the piano and singing. My piano was my first instrument that I learned. I was like, we need drums. How do I get drums on this track? Oh, well, I guess I better learn how to play drums so I can put that on the track. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So yeah, and I've learned quite a few. There's a lot that I'm just really bad at, but I still try. Like the guitar, I've tried so many times to learn, and I'm just still not very good at it. But I'll still record it for a song that I'm working on. And I don't ever expect these songs to be played on the radio. They're just like songs that make me happy. But like sometimes I'll put them on Spotify or I'll put them on TikTok and Instagram for other people to see. Yeah, I'm a TikToker, and it's really easy to get sucked in to TikTok for hours. So actually, I set a parental control on my phone. I'm only allowed to use TikTok for 1 hour a day. And then my phone won't let me access it. Like, it takes the app off of my home screen. I'm not even allowed to open it until I go on my computer and type in my password a few times. And since I'm too lazy to do all that, once I hit my limit, done.
Dude,
I actually did that with all of my social media apps. It's made me a lot happier because I'm not spending my whole day comparing myself to others. Like, especially on music TikTok, there are so many people who are way more talented than I am at any of the instruments that I try to play. Like, I'll think, oh, sick, I just played a cool song on the guitar. And then I go on to the guitar part of TikTok, and there's just, like, people shredding, just, like, Jimi Hendrix level of guitar ability. I'm like, well, great. Now I can never play guitar confidently again because I know that exists. So these limits... Putting these time limits really helps me out so I can stop comparing myself to other people and just focus on what I enjoy doing.
Social media, that's something that I think gets a lot of people down. But I'll tell you this, I get mad at my guitar every single day for the same reason you just, dude, I'll try to pick it up at night and it's just like, I maybe will play for 5 minutes, I maybe will play for an hour, but almost every time, although I enjoy it while it's going on, almost every time I put it down mad because it's like, this is stupid. You know, which that's how I am about a lot of things though, is it's just,
well, that's good though. Like, you're putting it down once it no longer brings you joy, right? And I think that's the point of like having passions, is you explore them because they bring you joy, and as soon as they stop bringing you joy, you stop.
Yeah, that's a good point. Pretty simple. I mean, I was about to say something and I forgot. This happens often.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to the Sippin' Something podcast. I mean, this is a very...
He's only sipping coffee and he's already forgetting what he's talking about.
Dude, I have no clue.
That's all right. You wanna check out something else on this list of questions that you had for me? Maybe there's something we haven't covered yet.
Or are you asking me?
Yeah.
Man, I'm so upset. It was going to be something important too. It was when you were talking about music. I don't remember though. Do you make money with that stuff?
I have earned, let me check. I think over a lifetime, 4 songs on Spotify, I have earned $12.
You can make money on Spotify?
Yeah, you earn like a third of a cent per stream.
For real?
So, yeah, 3 streams gives you 1 cent. 300 streams
How do you
gives you
get set up with
$1.
that? Dude, I've got like, my last podcast had like 6,000 streams.
What service do you use to put it on Spotify?
RSS or something?
Check it out.
I
They
made
might.
that up, by the way. Not 6,000. That'd be pretty cool though.
That would be cool. I was gonna say, that's impressive, but yeah, you should check it out because you can monetize streams on Spotify. I did. I've made $12. I haven't withdrawn that money
let it
yet
ride.
because once I'm gonna let it ride till it's like enough to. In 3 years, it might be enough to take my girlfriend
Do you have a girlfriend
on a date.
right now? For real?
Yeah.
How long you been dating?
Over 2 years. She's in Boston right now. But in a few weeks, she'll be coming to Germany with me to spend a few months.
Maybe I should come same time as her. We were talking about vacationing. Maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, it's a small place. This room is my place, so it might be a bit crowded if you're both here. But right now, she works at a modeling agency. She's an assistant booker, so she don't look at me like that. She schedules the models for when they need to be at certain photo shoots.
Tell her, single guy, ugly fireman. He's into firefighting stuff, Jesus, jujitsu, and people. See what she can drum up for me.
There'll be plenty of. I think they have 700 models at her agency.
I only need one.
Plenty of fish in the sea. Yeah.
1 out of 700. That's probably possible. Wow, this podcast is just going. I mean, people checked out a long.
This podcast
I'm over
has
here
turned
asking about your relationship.
It's turned into an online dating It's turned into an online dating service. Sipping something and going on dates.
Wow. Okay, so you want to wrap it up?
Sure.
That did not. I mean, that was the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes was just rough. Those poor people, if they're still listening. Bonnie Chocolate's listening. So
I mean,
bet
you say that.
much.
Hey, Bonnie, I love you.
You want to say a cuss
You
word?
say that, but you also said that. No,
Okay,
she would be disappointed in me if I did. No, you say that, but the last 2 podcasts, you also mentioned, people tuned out. And I was like, that was the most interesting point for me. I was like, what are they going to talk about next?
And Cody's girlfriend is what the answer to that is going to be.
She's great. She's cool.
You should make her, dude, tell your German friends to listen to this podcast. Then I can say I have international listeners. Sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hey, did you hear
I'll
you just
send
said
it out.
Bonnie?
My cousins
I can't wait for
live
Bonnie
here
to
in
text
Germany
us
too.
about that. That you
That
said hell yeah.
That she heard me say I love
You
to.
said hell yeah, yeah.
Oh, I did say. Dang, I said hell.
Remember being kids? Hell's in the Bible. It doesn't count. There's not even cuss words in the Bible.
Exactly. Also, ass was in the Bible.
I mean, we had it figured out as kids, dude. We had the
exactly.
What are those called? Loopholes.
Yeah, there's lots of loopholes that
We
you
had
can
it
figure out
figured
as a
out
child.
for sure. I mean, we knew it all, and now I know nothing. But, dude, it's been really fun talking to you. I think. What?
Likewise.
Do you have a plan after Germany?
Yeah, I'm gonna come back and I will continue. My life will be a lot more free because instead of doing designing, teaching, and music, I'll just be doing designing and music because when I get back, I won't be teaching anymore. So, that's my plan, is just keep doing what I'm already doing, but when I get back.
Boston, though?
Yeah, likely in
You like it
Boston.
there?
Yeah.
Maybe I should
It's
move
so
to
cool.
Boston.
It's like, they've got a great fire
I
department.
trained with a guy from there. He was like a retired captain or something. He was a straight up gangster. I mean, he saw some fire in his
I'm sure
life.
he was. Boston firefighters are way more respected than Boston police officers, but don't tell any of my Boston cop
I'll let
friends
them
that
know.
I said that.
They're gonna be listening to the podcast, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna put.
I hope they do. I want you to monetize those streams. Boston's cool though. It's not so big. It's like not as nearly as big as New York. So it's not so big that it's unmanageable, but it's also not so small that you're trying to live your life in Silver Lake, Kansas. I love Silver Lake, by the way. I actually kind of miss it.
Are you just saying that in case
but
anybody's
it's-
listening from Silver Lake that they won't stop respecting you?
No, I mean, you lived in Silver Lake, and I don't think you live in Silver Lake anymore.
What? I didn't follow.
My point is, so you lived in Silver Lake, right? And now you don't live there.
Oh,
So-
yeah, I moved away about 15 miles. Got out of that place.
Yeah, so like,
I had enough.
it's not a bad place, but everyone knows that it's a little bit limiting. Like, there's only one Chinese restaurant, and they're only open on
Bonnie
Fridays
Chocolate
and
works there?
Saturdays, as far as I know.
No free plugs on
Yeah,
this
she
podcast,
does.
by the way.
I love that place.
Chinese restaurant. I'll be expecting
Yeah,
some
that-
free food for that sponsorship. Anybody listening, you got to try out Silver Lake Chinese. They're best Chinese in the world.
What I'm saying is that if you're not drawn to a small town lifestyle, which my mother is, she loves small towns, and that's where she has her joy, and I
Right.
love that for her. If you're not drawn to small towns, then Boston is great because it's not huge like New York or LA or San Francisco. It's small enough that it's still manageable, but it's big enough that it gives you whatever fix you're
Yeah.
looking for, I guess, if you're looking for something bigger.
The
as far
cool
as city
thing
goes.
about Topeka and Silver Lake is you can get anywhere pretty quick. Or even just like Kansas City. I mean, which Kansas City's
Yeah.
not a big city in comparison to the places you just mentioned, but you can do a lot in Kansas City, really.
Boston takes up less space than Kansas City, but has more people
Gotcha.
living there. So it's not as like sprawling and spread out. So there's more people, there's more like shops and restaurants, but they're all a lot closer together. So it's the same as Kansas City. You can get in New York, you might ride the subway for like 45 minutes to get anywhere, but in Boston, 20, 30 minutes you can be wherever you want to be.
Cool, man. Well, I'm proud of you. I think what you're doing is sweet, because I think that you actually are living, and I think that that's something that a lot of people can't say. Kind of just like, and I think it's especially in people that grow up in a small town, I think a lot of people settle. I think we're all guilty in some ways, but just the way that you're just like, I mean, you're not pinned down anywhere, and you've proved that, and you have a love for people, obviously, and I think that's really cool. What you're doing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really admire what you're doing. Congrats. I mean, belated congrats on joining the fire department. The last time I saw you, you were applying for it and really hoping to get in, I think, to the academy. You had been driving an ambulance and were tired of that.
Yep.
So congrats on your success as well. That's awesome. And I'm going to keep listening to see who you talk to and how far you go.
Well, let's end this thing.